Getting closer, Shinpei and the rest hear a rumble and Takiko explains it's Hiriko's stomach. Takiko then takes them to a large shadow that reaches the ceiling, and at its base is the mother of the shadows, Haini, who states it's 9 o'clock and it's time to eat. Takiko explains that Hiriko's appearance is of the first human she copied, Haini, and she prefers to be called by that name. She is the god of Hitagashima and the mother of the shadows. Haini turns to Shiri and asks Shinpei, how many times have they met? Shinpei realizes that she was the one that killed Ushio and has been in front of him the entire time. Takiko calls in Negoro, a nurse that works at their clinic. Takiko explains that on average, 4 people die on Hitagashima every year, and they feed the dead to Haini. Her family have been doing it as long as it existed. Negoro brings 2 coffins, and one of them is Ushio. Takiko also tells So that their mother wasn't cured, and their father asked Haini to turn her into a shadow, so she can live. Haini proceeds and flashes to eat the body inside the other coffin. Shinpei knows that shadows can't move for a few seconds while they scan. As Haini prepares to scan Ushio, Shinpei asks Shadow Ushio to print it now. She then prints a nail gun in his hands and he shoots at the baby-like shadows. Shadow Ushio then jumps in and takes Ushio's body and scans her to regenerate her arm. Haini causes Shadow Negoro to transform into more muscular form and go after Shinpei, but Ushio jumps in and kills her. Shinpei gets close to Haini and prepares to shoot her, but the nail gun in his fingers get cut in half. The shadow parent tells Haini that he will take Ushio's body back, and he shows that he has Mio. Takiko gets angry as they promise to not touch Mio. Shadow shoots at Takiko, but So gets in front and takes the bullet. The shadow then shoots Takiko. Haini then orders Ushio to come slowly. Shinpei tells her to eat him since she wants to eat humans, but Haini rips his red eye, but it immediately returns to him, making Haini realize it's impossible to take his power. The shadow then crushes Mio's skull and killing her. The shadow intends to keep Shinpei alive there until tomorrow ends. Tetsu shows up, and a moment later Azuru blows the shadow's head and frees Shinpei. She knows she has one more shot and shoots at Shinpei, but the shadow creates a shield blocking the bullet and also shoots at Azuru, hitting her in the head and killing her. Shinpei thanks Azuru and Tetsu, revealing he had a bottle of poison, which he drank already. Haini suddenly tells the shadow to look at Ushio, as she started to reverse her corrosion. The shadow attempts to kill Ushio, but Shinpei takes her and starts looping back with her. Shinpei loops back at the moment he meets Hizuru and Nizu. Hizuru guesses he is a time traveler, and in that moment Ushio also materializes next to Shinpei. After telling her what happened, they all decide to work together. As they shake hands, Ushio shows Hizuru and Nizu her memories. Nizu states that if Shiri is part of Hiriko, no matter how many times they kill her she won't die, as Shiri is only a small part of Hiriko's shadow. Ushio suggests they capture Shiri like last time, and once they do, Ushio will try to erase her. The group prepares to attack the Kobayakawas, and Hizuru switches to Ryunosuke. Ryunosuke then enters and attacks Asako. Outside, the group prepares for a message from Ryunosuke. However, they are surprised when they see Ryunosuke flying through the window. Ryunosuke tells them to run. In that moment, the 4-armed shadow smashes Ryunosuke's head with his hammer. The shadow then surrounds Shinpei and is about to capture him, but Ushio cuts Shinpei's head. As the shadow was about to smash her, Shinpei's loop is activated and Ushio vanishes with Shinpei. While looping, Ushio tells Shinpei that after scanning the shadow, it was empty and there was no data, but had the same smell as Haini. Shinpei returns around their homes. He then sees 2 people and recognizes one of them being Hizuru. He decides to go after them, but can't interact with anything physical. Shinpei sees that this is 14 years ago. He even sees his parents there. Shinpei has then moved to Ishigata's old clinic in the mountain. Moments later, Haini shows up and Hizuru greets her. The two continue to spend time together and play games. Hizuru meets Nizu, who warns her it's dangerous as there are snakes in the forest. Ryunosuke heads towards the clinic to bring some water to Hizuru. On his way, he sees Haini, who is bloody and eating a small animal. Later, Hizuru sees a flash, and upon checking it, she finds Haini over the dead Ryunosuke. Haini comes back to her sense and turns into Ryunosuke. As she yells, a flash occurs and her eye is blown away. Hizuru covers her left eye, but her right is exposed to the light. Feeling pain, Haini then retreats in her shadow. 2 straight incomplete shadows appear, looking like a mother and child. The child's shadow runs towards Hizuru, but Nizu appears and attacks it. A flash occurs and the mother shadow turns into Nizu. Shadow Nizu then attacks Nizu and injures his eye. Hizuru hears her brother and then takes Nizu and jumps away. Ryunosuke had taken control over Hizuru. Shadow Nizu comes behind Ryunosuke, but but he predicts it and dodges and throws Nizu to the ground and kills him. Sometime after the incident, Hizuru decides to leave the island. As she leaves, Hizuru sees Haini, who tells her she is letting her go because they were friends. Shinpei loops back to them heading towards the Kobayakawas and tells Ryunosuke they shouldn't go. Meanwhile, Nizu is up a hill observing and wondering from where the shadows will come. A moment later, Shadow Mio stabs him in the head, killing him. While Shinpei thanks everyone for joining him, a blink occurs and he finds himself earlier at home. Ushio and Mio come and explain that he was shot by a sniper rifle. Mio was surprised as they wanted Shinpei alive before, but Shinpei explains that he can loop one more time. Hizuru notes that if he dies it will be his permanent death, and the world will be what Haini sees. Shinpei is waiting for Haini outside. She arrives with Shiidi and other shadows. They send Mio's shadow, but before she can attack Shinpei, Ushio appears from his wristwatch and takes him and runs away. Nizu shoots at Shiidi's shadow. However, it has no effect, making him wonder if Shiidi is invincible. Nizu proceeds to shoot out and kill regular shadows. Shinpei and Ushio pass a corridor, where they leave Hizuru to take care of the shadows following them. Mio's shadow heads towards Nizu, but Takiko summons the two big baby-like shadows, and they pushed Mio away. Ryunosuke fights the shadows. Ryunosuke then foresees Shiidi shooting Shinpei behind him and blocks the shot with his body. Haini knew that Ryunosuke will cover, which makes him realize that Haini also has the shifted sight and sees movements 2 seconds in the future. Shiidi fails to kill Ryunosuke as Nizu shoots at him, allowing Ryunosuke to escape. Surprised to see Takiko fighting Shadow Mio, Haini orders the shadows that Takiko isn't their master and to kill her. However, the shadows ignore the order and smash Mio, making Haini realize her connection to the stray shadows has been severed by Ushio. Angry Haini jumps on Shiidi, merging him with the remaining shadows and giving him a spider-like look. Shiidi and Haini reach the school sports hall. There Ushio reveals that her hair is above them and turns it into gasoline, which then Shinpei fires up. The shadows start burning, but Haini jumps on the ceiling with Asako. Tetsu shoots her, but as she turns towards him, his gun disappears and appears in Shinpei's hands. He then shoots Haini's shadow and injures her. Ushio then grabs Haini's hand, who's in Shiri's form. Distracted, Shiidi grabs Ushio and pulls her into the fire, while also shooting Shinpei. Ushio's necklace appears behind Shiidi and turns to Ushio, who then punches Shiidi from behind and pierces his chest. Ushio then starts erasing Shiidi, and as he starts to fall apart, a human hand comes out of him. Haini then goes crazy, taking out all the oxygen and putting out the fire. The windows then burst open and air enters the hall. Haini takes Shiidi and runs away. Ushio wonders about Shinpei as he was shot, but Shinpei reveals he made a bulletproof vest. The group has captured Shadow Mio and asks Ushio to turn her into an ally. They head to a secret hallway and Takiko explains it leads to Hiriko's cave, and they are using it to bring dead bodies to her. Eventually they find So's mother choking Sato. Ushio rushes in and hacks So's mother, freeing her from Haini's control. Sato reveals that Haini tries to return to her hometown in the deep ocean, and she intended to bring shadows with her, the family she handpicked. Sato then opens a safe. Inside it, patient records with the people that ended up being food for Haini, and Shinpei's parents are on the list too. Shinpei wonders if Sato knows Shiidi's real identity, and Sato confirms. Sato gives a photo to Shinpei and states Shiidi is her guardian and the first child she gave birth to. Shiidi Hiko Ishigata, the founder of the Ishigata Clinic. The next day Shinpei states that it's time to meet with Masahito Karakuri. Shinpei then goes to the Hiriko shrine where he finds Masahito. While waiting for Masahito to bring drinks, Shinpei confirms with Ushio that there are no shadows nearby and Masahito is not a shadow. Shinpei reveals he learned the legend of Hiriko. Shinpei states you can look at Hiriko as at a being from space, and while it was adrift, it probably copied and transformed into other things nearby. They likely arrived on Earth as a meteorite and fell into the ocean. They started copying things from the ocean and eventually transformed into a whale 300 years ago and somehow washed ashore on this island. As the villagers gathered, a girl approached the whale and it copied the girl, starting the shadow sickness. Masahito laughs, but Shinpei tosses photos at Masahito and asks, should he call him Shiidi Hiko Ishigata? Shinpei then points his gun at Masahito and states he is Shiidi. He then tells Masahito to look at the other picture, which Dr. Ishigata's father took 40 years ago. On the picture it's Haini with Masahito and a baby, which wasn't a shadow but birthed from Haini's flesh and blood body. Haini copies Shiidi Hiko personality and memories and transfer them into the child, thus restoring his youth. Shiidi Hiko then continued being reborn over and over by Haini, allowing him to live for 300 years. Ushio, unable to stand it anymore, comes out and slashes and kills Masahito. Then suddenly another Masahito appears and stabs Ushio's shadow and slashes her with a spear. Shinpei loses it and shoots at Masahito 3 times. A black mud surrounds Masahito, turning him to Shiidi. He then throws the spear at Shinpei and hits him in the chest. Shiidi then notes that with Ushio's death, he can move only with despair and regret now. Shinpei then awakens and starts to cry because he looped back alone without Ushio. And that's the end of the video. Please tell me your opinion and like the video. Take care and watch other interesting videos.